Hey, this is Chuck, and you are listening to Fans with Bands, the podcast where we talk to the fans and the bands they dig about life, music, and whatever the hell else we want to talk about. Today on Fans with Bands, we're talking to Budahas. Check it out. Hey, this is Chuck with Fans with Bands, and I'm talking to Erik and Matt from Budahas. How you guys doing?
Fantastic.
Good.
How are you?
Awesome. And we've got fan Alan. How you doing, Alan?
Good. How's it going, Chuck?
Good. I'm doing good.
Good.
It's awesome to have all you guys on Fans with Bands. I really appreciate it. So
Thanks for having us.
yeah, hell yeah.
This is awesome.
And Erik, I got to thank you for reaching out because I'd actually not heard your band until you reached out and said, hey, man, here's the link on Spotify. Check it out and, let me know if you want to talk. And I was like, holy shit, this is really cool. I love the heavy doom, that kind of stoner vibe that you guys got going. You got the power trio, which I think is fantastic. Good heavy riffs. Vocals are fantastic. And, I really think a lot of people would love to check that out. And I'm curious, how did you come up with the name Budahas? Is that?
Oh, I love it. I'm so glad that you're asking. Well, I was talking to my wife yesterday, and she said, if he asks you about the band name, you also need to ask, have to tell him what it was going to be and why. So I started playing with Party Man years ago, and we just wanted to get something going. And so I said, well, let's call it Blood Fountain. And my wife goes, well, what's that about? I said, you don't want to know. I said, you know about it, but you don't want to know. She said, no, not happening. You need to find something else. So that night we were watching X-Files, and I think it is episode 2. There's this guy named Colonel Budahas. And I'm just sitting there and I go, Budahas, I think that's it. So I brought it to Matt and I said, what do you say? Does that work? Yep, we're sold. I mean, so it means nothing. It's a X-Files
awesome.
reference. So then if you look at the cover, that's the logo is X-Files font.
Awesome. Because I was wondering about that because I was like, all right. And that's what I love about heavy music in general is that I always learn something. Either the song references are going to have like a name or something in the lyrics that talks about something. It's either history or, mythology, all kinds of things, right? And so I was, of course, Googling Budahas, and it's like X-Files. I'm like, what the hell? And I love the X-Files. And I was like, it's that guy.
Yeah.
The guy that got taken by the aliens.
Just find some obscure reference and utilize that. And it's kind of catchy. I like the logo. It's solid.
Yeah, hell yeah. I mean, it's fun to say, right?
And way better than Blood Fountain. I mean, come on, let's be serious. Way better than Blood Fountain.
Yeah. I think you guys definitely hit it out of the park with the name. That's great.
I attribute it to my wife. So
all right, awesome.
Thanks to her.
Yes.
Yeah.
So so tell me about how the band got started. How did you guys? We've come up with how you got the name, but how did you form? How did you find the direction you wanted to go in as far as your music?
I really want to hear what Matt has to say about this because I don't think I've really ever heard this from his perspective. I know what my perspective is. I want to hear this.
All right.
Erik and I have been friends for years, probably, I don't know, 10 years before this band started, and always went to shows together, talked music together. I knew that he was in bands before. We would play garage band, but he said, let's start a real band. Can you play bass guitar? And I said, no, I've never picked up a guitar. So he said, you need to play bass guitar and we need to start a band. So what else do I have going on? So I bought a bass guitar, cheap combo amp, started plucking the strings, started playing with Erik. We just practiced cover songs first. And just a lot of fun. And then I went down the rabbit hole of chasing the sound and gear, and thousands of dollars later, here I am, a amateur bass player in a garage. So yeah, that's kind of how it formed. Just Erik and I playing down in his basement first. then got kicked out of there because we were too loud. Moved out into the garage.
Awesome.
Just hung out playing music.
Oh, wow. That's crazy. So, what do you think it was that, I mean, because obviously you've got like that kind of Sabbath, High on Fire, I think of a little bit, and I think it's because of the vocals, somewhat, but not necessarily some of the tempo change. I think you're a little bit more on the doomier side of that stoner rock genre, and I was kind of curious, like, what got you guys there? Where was that? Just the because when I think of like music, I think of it as frequencies that that relate to us, and so is it something about like music from like Black Sabbath and those kind of heavier bands that influenced you, or was it just a natural progression? You started playing, like this is where we ended up.
I think it was mostly us just going to a lot of these kind of stoner doom shows, and just, I had been playing music for years and years. I mean, I'm a terrible guitar player, but I wanted to play. I wanted a hobby. As we get older, you want something to do.
Yeah.
And with a tiny, you don't have to have all of the talent in the world. Nope. You can just, as long as you can play some riffs. Hey, there's Matt Fry. What's happening, my friend?
Hey guys.
Hey, what's happening, man?
Sorry about that.
No worries.
we knew you were jet setting in Chicago, and so you're like, he's jet lagged, and so
in fact, I just got home from work.
Nice.
Yeah,
nice.
Perfect.
And I got to get the food out of my oven before it burns up. Okay.
No
Perfect.
worries.
So Chuck was asking about how we kind of started, and so we were talking about Party Man, I playing in the basement, and just kind of where it went musically. So from in the basement, like, and listening to all of these bands, I'm drawn towards more of the stoner, a Dozer, Greenleaf, Clutch. And so those were kind of some of the covers that we were trying to play in the basement to get up to speed. And then all of a sudden it turns into a riff. And then all of a sudden it turns into some more riffs. And then there's a song in our head. And then now it's okay. We've got the bass line, we've got the guitars. Start writing some of the lyrics. Well, what's missing? Drums. And I had a drum set in my basement, and I can keep a beat, but at some point that's not going to be sustainable. And I'm an even worse drummer than anything. So then just musically, then that was what we were enjoying. And then we needed to find somebody else to join the party because it was time. And I have to say, Party Man's progression from never having played an instrument to when Matt Fry joined us, I'm excited to hear his perspective on that and how he came into the band. So I'd love to ask him about that here in just a second. But it was just absolutely amazing. Matt's dedication to, just wanting to show up and practice. And you've been in bands, sometimes practice, half the time you're just messing around, you're drinking, you're just hanging out, but we were working towards something. And I think that was one of the things that was important to us as individuals and as a group, was that we had a goal. And that goal, as simple as it was we want to make an album. That's it. We're three old guys in a garage, and thankfully we have some funding that, like, let's just do it, because why not? Yeah. So we needed a drummer. So I put an ad on Craigslist, and Matt Fry.
Yep.
Tell us how it happened.
Yeah.
Tell me how it happened.
Yeah. How did it happen, Matt?
No, I saw that we had moved to Grand Rapids not that long ago. We had been there, I don't know, a few months. And I saw an ad on Craigslist for stoner rock. I think just said stoner rock band needs drummer. And I'm like, oh shit, okay, I can do that. And and because Kruthu was going at the time, but as everybody knows, kind of we're sporadic.
Yeah, you're all
Good.
over the map too.
Yeah,
So-
we're all over the place physically, geographically and mentally and emotionally. So,
Right.
when we get together is when we get together. So, I've constantly had something else going on, otherwise. And I went over and I met these guys, and they had a drum kit over there, so I didn't have to ding anything. And we just started jamming, and they were, and like Erik was saying, Party Man hadn't, I didn't even know at the time that he had never been in a band before. He'd based that Erik taught him how to play his instrument. We played, I think we played a Clutch song and something else, but we just started, but then Erik's like, I have this riff, and like, and we just started writing music. And
Awesome.
it just flowed. And, the one thing I want to say about like Erik said something about, three old guys in a room, kind of, which, it's funny, but it's true. We're not 20-year-olds looking to, go out on tour and play, be Black Flag and load up all of our shit in the back of a pickup truck.
Right. Get in the van.
Yeah, get in the van. We're older. We have families. We have mortgages. We have things. So we're kind of we're in kind of a position where, let's put some money into this and make a really good sounding album.
Yeah.
And we did. I mean, I love it. I listen to it a lot to this day. I mean, it's phenomenal.
Yeah, no, it's super solid. I just want to jump in real quick, Erik, because, until Erik had gotten hold of me, I'd never heard it. And I was listening to it, I'm like, holy shit, how did I not hear this? And it's super cool. I love it. It's really cool, heavy riffs that I love. Erik, are you singing?
Yes.
Yeah. So, I like your voice. I think it sounds great. I mean, yeah, it's a super album. So anyway, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Someone told me it was like, sounded like a cross between Kyuss and Fu Manchu. And I'm like, okay, I can get behind that.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
For sure. Now I want to rewind this a little bit, because the first time I met Matt Fry, it was hilarious because, on Craigslist, you don't know what you're going to get. And this was the very first person that responded. So I'm like, okay, we're local. Well, let's meet somewhere. So my wife says, hey, maybe you should take somebody with you. And I'm like, no, it's gonna be fine, right? Like we're meeting in a public place.
Maybe he's got a bag full of fingers.
Right, exactly. A bag full of fingers is what we said.
Yep,
bag full of fingers. So
I don't.
No, thankfully he didn't. So I show up at this bar, and it is
wasn't it? Score in Rockford.
Yep, the Score in Rockford. And there's Matt Fry and his significant other. And we immediately just fell into sync. He and I have the same tattoos. And it was okay. We're like, awesome. You're okay. I really, hopefully you do know how to play the drums and don't bring the bag of fingers with you. That'd be cool. And he showed up with no bag of fingers. And it was the right fit. It was awesome. So
that's cool.
Yes, it was very interesting meeting Matt Fry for the first time.
Excellent.
Yeah.
That's a great.
And the other thing that was funny about it was that we were, this was Grand Rapids, but we were both, Erik, we had both lived in Traverse City for a long time before that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we were like Traverse City, and we both moved to Grand Rapids. I don't know about the same time, but
so your orbits had been around, but never really connected.
Paths.
Yeah,
right.
That's cool. So you were talking a little bit about getting together, jamming some covers, and then starting to jam on some riffs and stuff. So how did the album come together? How did those songs? Because I'm curious, because it's Explorers, and it's heavy in the Spanish Explorers, and so I'm wondering what was the influence for that, and yeah, so I'll let you guys go.
So I think I probably had at least 3 of those pretty much written before Matt Fry joined. I think we had them down pretty well. It was kind of important for Party Man and I to not show up with nothing. So we had, I think there were 2 or 3 that were pretty solid, that were pretty fleshed out, had lyrics, etc. And so then those evolved into full songs. And then eventually I kind of wanted to do a concept album, as silly as that sounds. But when I started thinking about it, I was like, okay, this is just kind of us exploring what we can do musically. It's a new thing for us. It's, the first thing that we're going to write together. And then I just started, the songs were there, and then it turned into, well, what are the lyrics going to be? And, I could have, started writing about something, but I was reading this book about Columbus, and it was kind of this pseudo history fiction account of Columbus. And it had to do with the fact that he went to America because there was this rumor that he was Jewish and was trying to colonize for the Jewish people another country. And I can't remember who the author is, but it was, and I said, oh, well, now I kind of like this pseudo history stuff. The name of the band is Budahas. It's X-Files. So let's kind of do something a little weird and put maybe a little pseudo history from my perspective, at least as far as the lyrics go. Yeah. So, I think when you go through and listen to the lyrics or read it, okay, it is kind of this history lesson. And then it turned into, well, now let's arrange them chronologically on the album. And so now we start with, I think it's Erikson starts off and then works its way through, other explorers to eventually mankind at the end, where now we're traveling space. So now we're kind of shooting off into the future. So that's where it came from, Chuck.
Awesome. Yeah. I was just, I was just curious about, especially Cortez, because he's an interesting character.
I want to add something to this. When I joined the band, I mean, I had no idea, for a very long time, I had no idea, because there were, if there were lyrics, I hadn't heard them. I didn't know lyrics. I didn't know song titles. I didn't know anything. Still to this day, I couldn't tell you. It said Cortez. I don't know which one that is. The only way I can differentiate the songs are the little nicknames I gave to them while we were learning them, the Blickum 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 song, or the or the riff that goes that's how I remember them. So when the album came out, or when I read Erik's lyrics and I kind of find out which way it was going, it was like a new thing for me. It was like a new discovery. It was like, oh wow, this is really cool.
That's awesome.
This is like a concept album. This is intelligent. This is literary. This is something. This isn't dumb. This is really good. I never thought it was, obviously. It's really good stuff. I love it.
Yeah.
But then the lyrics took it to a next level.
Yeah.
And the songs. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's what adds to it for me, because sometimes you can have lyrics that just, I don't know, they just don't work, and they don't feel,
lyrics are lyrics. They don't have to be, I don't think they have to be, you don't have to be, Mensa material to write lyrics for a stoner rock band. But, but it's nice to sometimes be, to hear a little bit of intelligence behind something.
Well, I think of it as like a story. I like it when I get a little bit of a story. That's why I always loved about Rush. And bands like Yes and that, because they're gonna explore with their music, and you're gonna get a musical story, but then you're gonna get another story, right?
Yeah.
The lyrics gonna paint some kind of picture for you, and depending on the lyricist, they may, get really esoteric and it's out there and here, figure out what your meaning is. And other times it's very literal and like, this is what's happening, so
Exactly.
yeah, I think that's cool.
And Erik held those lyrics back. So we would just jam in the garage to the instrumental. And then all of a sudden he had lyrics to one song. So he'd break those out, and Matt Fry and I loved it.
Awesome.
So the song kind of evolved from there.
That's cool.
Absolutely.
So, and it's funny when Matt, you mentioned that, I thought of them as, riff A, riff B, riff C, because when I was talking to Lucius Fox, they were like, oh yeah, we called all of them boy, B-O-I. It's big boy, fat boy, and like, they had no names until they got to the recording.
Yeah.
I'm just glad I did better than Blicka, Blicka, Blicka.
The blicka, blicka, blicka. Come on now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the one song I don't even know the name of it. The one that my favorite on the album, the oddly enough, sorry, Erik, the instrumental. The one that kind of almost sounds like a wind hand riff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I love that. Oh my God. That's such a great song.
And that was the first one that we wrote.
Was it?
Yep. That was the very first one that we had the riff to. And that one's Magellan.
Magellan, yes. Yep.
And it was, I have to tell you, I wasn't sure that I liked what we recorded at River City Studio with Ryan Cunningham. That's his last? What?
I couldn't remember his name.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Ryan Cunningham. Yeah. And do you know who he is, Chuck?
No.
He's recorded. His
name sounds familiar, but yeah.
I don't know if he's doing it anymore. I think he was doing a lot of it before we asked him to. And it was just kind of a favor, I think, from somebody.
He was okay. Ryan's wife used to be the singer in Imperial Sun Crusher. Do you remember them?
Yeah.
Yeah. Before, when they had a female singer, that was Ryan's wife.
Did he play in a band too?
I don't know if he did or not.
I think he did.
He probably did.
Yeah, his name sounds super familiar. But
he recorded, and I wasn't sure if I liked the final mix. There was quite a bit of going back and forth, and now that because it wasn't what I heard in my head, but when I go back to it, I'm so excited with what he did and where he put things in there and the way they sound. So that is, will probably always be one of my favorites as well, just because it was the first. And I think we wanted to start off with something more doomier. And then it was, I think I want something a little more lighthearted than doom. And then that's where, kind of the other ones went, except Erikson's pretty crushing. Like I really kind of like, that one's pretty heavy. I do enjoy that one.
Yeah. So what's so you've got, that one came out, was that 2021?
Last January, yes. Yeah. And we sat on it. I sat on it for years because as we were talking beforehand, nobody listens to these things anyways. And this was just our little project that we wanted to do. And it was, I had gone through some life changes that took me to Maine, and I had just been sitting on this. With no excuse. I mean, the biggest excuse was that we really wanted to put it on vinyl. I think that was our biggest goal was, we just wanted to have something physical.
Yeah.
But then life changes, things happen, and I wasn't really excited about anything. And I said, okay, I need to get excited about something. So I need to figure out how to do this. And Chuck, there's no handbook. There's no handbook to how to put an album out or how to do anything or put something on Spotify. I had plenty of friends in bands that would put things on Bandcamp, and I wanted something a little more than that. Yeah. And it really just comes down to that, how much money do you want to spend? And then you can get it released. And I'll tell you, anyone that ever listens to this, it's not much. Just do it. Just put the shekels together and do it. Like $100 you can put out an album on iTunes. It's on iTunes forever now. So but it was then the artwork, how do I put that on there? And listen, and also not that this is rocket science. So you don't need a high school diploma to put out an album either. Just do it.
Right.
Just don't let it, don't let these things stop yourself. So, we had, I think, did I start sending pictures about the album?
Yes.
So I have a buddy, Chris, who is a Marine in Japan, and he starts sending me ideas, and he's the one that kind of got me back into it for some reason. So he starts sending me photos. He's like, well, because that was kind of the last piece.
Yeah.
We have the final mixes. And I said, all right, well, I think this needs to finally happen. So he starts sending me pictures, and I was so excited about them. And so then I just started disseminating them between Matt and Party Man and said, okay, what do we want to do? And so Chris was a huge help in putting that final piece together. And he's just always been so supportive of the band as well. So I was very happy that he could participate and be a part of that with us also.
That's awesome.
So then, yes, it was getting all that together and then hitting the send and pay your money to publish it.
There.
And there it is, there it is. And Chuck, I don't know how to promote, or, when you have 57 friends on Facebook, you just hope that one of them listens. So, thankfully, I think one person did listen, and then, you get people can listen on Spotify, it's on all the services, but it's so cool. It's like, okay, we did it.
Yeah,
we did it.
And I think that's the cool thing, is that you're able to just, get your music out there, get your ideas out there. I think we're in a, as much as people like to bitch about the fact that and it is, I don't want to minimize the fact that it's very hard to be a professional musician. Not that you guys are trying to aspire to that, but that is a real problem, right? To try to get money to actually pay for your art. And this is in all different art forms, very difficult. So I don't mean to minimize that, but I also think that, streaming platforms get they end up being the boogeyman, the whipping boy for the fact that there's a lot of music out there. There's more music than we've ever had before in our lives. And, that's a good thing and a bad thing, because there's not going to be another Metallica, but there's probably 50 Metallicas out there that could probably do really well if they get enough people listening to them. And same thing with you guys. I mean, you're in this huge sea, a billion bands, and somebody's just got to come along and hit that song and say, oh, wow, this is, I love that this is like Kyuss, and Kyuss isn't here, but, Budahas is putting it out and I love it. And they tell so-and-so, and they tell so-and-so, and then, 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, boom, it's something. So I think it's great that, you guys are, just number one, like you mentioned, it's not like we're trying to get rich here or anything. We're passionate about the music we're making. That you guys are passionate about what you're doing. I'm passionate about what I'm doing, and we're all just trying to like share that as much as we can. And if we get a couple of people that say, "Oh, that's fucking awesome," then that's fucking great. And ultimately, like you said, Erik, it's about your own appreciation of being able to express yourself, get that art out there. And so, I think it's fantastic that you guys are doing this. And so that leads to my second question, which is, are you going to do more? Is there going to be a follow-up to this? Have you got some riffs and ideas? Because you guys are geographically separated. So how is that going to work? I mean, going to fly everybody in, or do the remote kind of album collaborations?
I finally dusted my guitars off after about 2 years, and it has been a pretty trying few years, and I have not felt creative at all. And so I think I sent a text a few months ago. It may have been like 6 months ago, and just said, well, it would be pretty fun to start doing something again. So, I'm going to start writing things again. And I think that's where it's going to start. And, again, I'd like to thank my friend Chris. He sent me a photo. He's like, this should be the next album cover. And I said, oh, okay. And I think I had always wanted to have a follow-up album about mythological creatures like the chupacabra and Bigfoot. So I have ideas in my head that it would probably, I could probably think some follow-up, but I think we had 1 or 2 songs that were not on the album that we had started working on that are pretty solid. And then of course, you walk around with an iPhone. I mean, you can record anytime. So, okay, if I'm sitting down and I think of a riff, I need to go back and revisit it. I was sad, Chuck, for a long time, and I'm not so sad anymore. And I think
that's good, man.
I got the amps out, got the pedals out, but then what happens is you start spending more on gear again, and then it's back down that hole. Right. So, I really want to try something. And I was talking to you before we started that, now I've got some equipment to do some recording. So now this can actually turn into, hey, Matt Fry, you've got drums at home. I'm sending you a couple of tracks. Let's see what happens. Yeah. And I would like to do another one. If Matt Fry, maybe
we'll play another show again someday.
Yeah.
That'll be awesome.
Yeah, Chuck said something about flying in and playing, and that sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
No matter whatever, we can play anything.
There you go. That sounds fun. That's fantastic. So one thing, Fans with Bands isn't just about me talking. And so, Alan, did you have any questions that you wanted to ask these guys?
First, I just want to say thanks, Chuck, for having these guys on. I've heard these guys play before, in both a gig and them practicing. And it was awesome, but I've never heard a lot of the backstory of these things. So this is so interesting and so fun to understand that, and maybe saw me get distracted a little bit as Erik was talking about one of the songs. He's like, and that was Magellan. So I had to go play the song. It was on mute, and I had to play a song like, oh, that's what he means. And then played Erikson as he talked about that song. And so it's just fantastic. So thank you, Chuck, and thank you guys for being on here. But most of my questions were answered, and it was what's next is the big question.
Cool.
So
awesome.
Thanks for asking that, Chuck.
Yeah. The other question I have is, so Erik, you've mentioned that Matt is Party Man. How did you get the name Party Man?
Oh my God.
I think in the early days when Erik and I started hanging out, this was before my wife, before kids.
Yeah.
I would just party all the time. So I forget what movie. Erik's gonna have to tell me what movie. But
Cabin Fever.
Cabin Fever. There you go. So the part where he says, "Hey, it's the fucking party man." So we were watching that movie, and as soon as that part played, he pointed at me and said, "You are the party man from now on for the rest of your life."
That's awesome.
I'll take it.
So my kids don't know his name, and I've got an adult. Well, they're both adults now. I've got a 26-year-old and an 18-year-old, and my 18-year-old, I think until he was 16, did not know his name was Matt. He was the party man. That's it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And that's so absolutely cool. Where that reference comes from. It's towards the end of the movie. And it's hilarious.
When you got two Matts, you got to differentiate somehow.
Yeah. Party Man or Matt Fry. Yeah. Awesome. So, I like to get so we've got the backstory, but I'm always interested in where people came from as far as their music and their influences. And so, I have two questions, but the first one's going to be about who influenced you as a musician. So another guitar player, another singer, another drummer, somebody in music that you not necessarily aspired to be like, but they contributed to you wanting to play an instrument. So we'll start with Erik.
Okay, I'm so excited that you did ask this, because I was sitting here yesterday, maybe the day before, and I kept seeing these ads on Facebook for 30th anniversary release of this, 30th anniversary release of this, right? So we're talking 1992. And I reverse back to 1992. And I think that is the point in my life where I said, I really want to play music. I didn't know how or why or what was going to happen. And I think I had a friend that had given me a guitar. But 1992, you had the release of Vulgar Display of Power, Body Count, Lost Exorcisto, and The End of Silence.
Mhm.
So Vulgar Display of Power and End of Silence were on repeat. Like, though, that was the soundtrack of my life. And so I was thinking about this all day today. I was thinking about, this is important to me, though. It's probably not important to anybody else. But that was my experience. That's what got me interested. Yeah. Not that I wasn't interested in music before. I was in band but okay, do I actually want to be in a band or play in a band? Well, then life evolves. And for me, it wasn't those bands per se, but it was such an important time in my life that's what defined what then happened next and what happened after that and how important it became in my life. But I think musically, I'm really into punk rock as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was into Social Distortion, which Somewhere Between Heaven and Hell, 1992, another one of those albums where I'm sitting on the edge of my bed, strumming my guitar. That was what I was trying to do as in high school, trying to find my way. So I think probably then, Mike Ness would be a big influence. But I think modern guitar players, Tim Salt from Clutch, hands down for me, is somebody, who just is dead on with his tone and always has a new riff. You can talk about Matt Pike, and Matt Pike is fantastic, who, he is the riff lord, but, Tim is always doing something just a little bit different. So I would have to say that. And then as far vocally, it was more punk rock stuff for me. And so I didn't really have a vocalist that I was like, I want to be like that. But for a front man, Phil and Rollins, like those guys were somebody that were very, very good front men from my youth. But stylistically, I didn't really have anybody vocal wise. So
cool. Awesome. Matt, how about you? Matt, party man.
I guess going way back to what got me into music in the first place, you always hear music as a kid and, the pop channels and everything, but my parents had a big stack of records. So listening on the big padded headphones, the curly cord, just sat in a chair listening to all these records. And my mom had a lot of Elvis and disco and stuff like that. And I came upon one that I really liked and just changed everything. It was, my dad had Deep Purple, the Machine Head album.
Oh, yeah.
And that for me, when I listened to that, it was just different.
Yeah.
So something clicked and said, oh, this is what music can be too.
Right.
And then you start getting into Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin, all of the more old school. So that just triggered everything in the teenage years, mid 90s, like Erik said, Pantera. Listened to a lot of Helmet, Rollins band.
Oh yeah, Helmet. That's a great band.
Also 1992, I think, was Meantime.
Yeah, Meantime. Yeah. Whew, I remember when that came out. I think 92 is also when, is that when Tool played Lollapalooza on the side stage? I think it was.
Yes, because I think 91 was Undertow.
Yeah.
And then
so that was another, huge.
Well, you had Dirt, Alice in Chains Dirt. I mean, grunge was exploding as well. I mean,
Primus.
Yes. Yeah.
Sailing on the Seas of Cheese. Matt Fry, how about you?
Well, Erik hit on the two things I hadn't thought about in a while, but I think our timeline is pretty runs pretty parallel. Vulgar Display of Power and End of Silence were huge for me. Also, Wait, the one that came at the Rollins Band album that came after it. Those 3 albums, before that, I think the thing that really the music and well, I think we talked about this before. The drummer that made me go, yeah, and that's the sound, that's the noise I want to make, was Erik on Creatures of the Night.
Oh yeah.
And not the song I Love It Loud, which of course that's a great song, great drum sound, whatever, but War Machine on that album just floored me. I remember being in 7th grade hearing that and going, holy shit, this is what I want to do with my life. This is the sound I want to make. And but yeah, the whole Pantera, Rollins Band, the early 90s, Helmet, or the Meantime, just that year, that changed my trajectory of Phil Rudd with AC/DC was kind of my bedrock. That's where I started. The first song I learned how to play all the way through was You Shook Me All Night Long.
Excellent.
And so I'm La Sexorcisto, that early 90, 92, 93, those were kind of my next formative years.
Awesome.
Matt, I have a question. Did you do band in high school?
Yes.
So did you do drums?
No.
What did you play in band?
I wanted to. We always had quote unquote enough drummers. So so I started, my first instrument was French horn. I started playing French horn in 7th grade. And then I was a small kid, so I got tired of carrying around that big the big French horn case. So I switched to trumpet.
Nice.
And then in high school, I was in marching band. Yeah, I was in marching band. I played the baritone.
Oh, all right.
I was in 7th grade when I bought a drum kit, or my mom bought a drum kit for me. And but yeah, I didn't really know how to do anything with it for a few years.
Nice. Why is it it's so funny you say that about, because everyone wants to do percussion in band. Why are there no drummers?
You know what?
There are no drummers.
Yeah, that's the hardest piece to find in a band. Like if you want to start a band today, you can't find a drummer.
No.
Where are all those kids from high school?
Where all the kids? Yeah, I think they got burned out in high school or something, or they peaked way too early.
Yeah. Erik, that's a great question, because I always asked that too when I was in a band, when I was starting to look for people years and years ago. That was the hardest thing. Either the drummer would be they had a kit but they couldn't keep time, or they had a kit, they couldn't keep time and they were drunk, or they just didn't know what they were doing. And when you found that one guy, you were like, do you like metal? And he's like, well, I'm not sure. You do like metal. Play it.
Yes, you do.
Oh my God. So the guy that played drums in the very first band I was in high school was into he was a jazz drummer, and we were playing like punk rock music and like in the basement, just dirty punk rock music. He showed up, he's like in his, polo shirt and his khaki, and we've got denim jackets. And I think he was still a senior in high school. We've got tattoos already. And he goes, I don't know what I'm doing, but he was one of those guys that, okay, I'll play whatever. Right. He now is like he's on tour with some dude all the time. And that's how it is with drummers. You can't find a metal drummer.
No. Can't find good drummers. Yeah.
No.
My big thing is, I've never had a problem, finding a band. If I want to find a band, it's still different. If it's a little different up here and, up in nowhere, there's nobody up here, but I've never had a problem, I've never had a problem locating other musicians.
Yeah. So the other kind of origin question I like to throw around, and this is like group participation. It's what was the very first concert you went to, and what got you there? Why did you want to go? Let's start with Matt, since he's laughing.
First concert. Oh God. 1984. Petoskey High School or Petoskey Middle School gym. Petra.
Petra, really?
You remember them?
Yes.
Yeah. Petra, Christian rock. They
Wow.
played there. And, I was brought up very, my parents are very fundamentalist.
Yeah.
I was brought up in that kind of household. So that's really the only, just for instance, back in whatever year it was when Ozzy played at the Castle up here in Charlevoix, early 80s, 83, I think it might have been.
Yeah, I think it was Jakey Lee
yeah.
time.
Yeah. Bark at the Moon. That was the tour.
Yep.
And we lived in Petoskey. And we were going to my grandparents' house in Bel Air, which was, we'd have to go through Charlevoix to get to Bel Air. The day of that show at the Castle, my parents went the long way around because they didn't want to get the evil of the Ozzy from Charlevoix on us so I forgot the question. What was the question?
Well, the first concert was Petra, though.
So I got to go to Christian rock concerts.
Nice. So
that's about it.
Were you into it at the time? I mean, because Petra wasn't a bad band.
I was into it because I got to be in the dark with my girlfriend, Mary Boffman. If she's out there, and I put my arm
I'll be
around
Googling her later.
Yeah, actually, we're friends on Facebook. If she's there, hi. She that was really the only reason, because I got to be alone with Mary in the dark.
Nice, awesome, fantastic.
I was in 6th grade. Yeah, 6th grade.
Nice, awesome.
Yeah.
Let's see, Party Man. How about you? What was your first concert, and what drove you there?
I think I was 13 or 14. Had a bunch of friends that were into the same music. We went to we had to stand in line at Meyer because they had a Ticketmaster there.
Oh, nice.
So right when the tickets came out, so
Yeah.
saved all our money and got that. It was and our friend's dad drove us down. It was Korn, Rammstein, Limp Bizkit. I think there was 4 or 5.
Holy cow.
Wow.
So more of a bigger venue for the first concert ever, but
Awesome.
it was loud and it was amazing. Loved every minute of it. Wanted to go to shows all the time after that.
Awesome. Erik, how about you?
Mine was, I think, 1991, and it was Rollins Band with COC as the opener.
Wow.
Yes.
Oh.
Wow.
It was pretty fantastic.
Yeah.
That was in Cleveland, and I had my friends were not into Rollins Band. They were not into COC. It was for the blind.
But that
Blind
was
album came
What a
out.
great record.
I know.
Oh my God.
I just got that on vinyl because I've had the
Yeah.
CD forever. I've been in COC since that album. That album got me into COC.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Holy
me too.
crap. Yeah.
Well,
Wow.
so then fast forward, and I told a couple people this story. I took my son to his very first concert with the Party Man. We drove out to Illinois to see Metallica and Down. Well, who's in Down? Pepper.
Yeah.
So my oldest kid's first show was also the same dude that I saw at my first show.
Yeah.
Holy cow. That's a
Nice.
good lineup too.
That's cool.
Oh, and the Sword. It
And the
was
Sword.
Metallica, Down, and the Sword.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was pretty good.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Alan, how about you?
I'm not going to count a few of them from when I was a little kid. My parents took me to some because they were just, I don't know, lame kind of old
Yeah.
people stuff. But Pantera was the first that I remember that was just amazing.
Holy crap. Do you
Nice.
remember when it was when you saw him?
Had to have been like 93
Nice.
is my guess. 4.
Did we go together?
Yep.
We did.
Yep.
I know.
So I got to tell you
Remember
a
that?
fun Pantera story. I was huge. So I didn't even know who Pantera was. Um, I was a huge Wrathchild America fan.
Oh yes.
And loved Wrathchild America. And so they were coming to Detroit, playing the East Side at the Ritz. And I'm like, oh, fuck, I gotta go. I gotta be there. And there's an opening band called Pantera, and I'm like, I don't know who the fuck these guys are. It was chaos because everybody. It was Cowboys from Hell, and everybody knew who they were. And I'm like, holy shit! So I spent that whole concert running up, jumping on stage, diving off, running up stage, diving. It was so fun. Oh my god, it was.
Nice.
That was
I almost
those-
forgot that Wrathchild America was playing.
So
well, they had that reputation of whoever they were with, like they
Yeah.
were blowing them off the stage.
They did.
but,
and that
so
was-
Wrathchild America. So I got a funny story. I saw them. Okay, so they changed their name after at some point to Souls at Zero.
So zero, yeah.
I saw the first Souls at Zero show at the Reptile House in Grand Rapids.
Oh,
We walked in back. I don't remember what year it was. We walked in and we were early, and somehow the door was unlocked. We got in. We heard their sound check, and I got to hang out with Brad Divens all night.
oh, really? I
Yeah.
love that dude because
Yeah.
I was like this, I don't know if you guys had the same experience, and maybe we'll go around and ask this question, but I sometimes get tongue tied with people that I really admire.
Oh, yeah.
And you like when you see them at a club, you're like,
Yep.
and I don't even know what to like. I should say something like, like I
Yep.
like your album, or dude, it's really cool to meet you. And I'm like, and that's
Yep.
how it was. I saw him at Blondie's, and I'm like,
Okay.
I did the same thing with World Dane too because I saw
Oh, my
Sanctuary,
God.
and I'm like, hey, and he's like,
Yep.
he could obviously look at me and going, this dude does not know what the fuck he's doing right now.
I met Mike Patton at the Orbit Room in Grand Rapids and lost
Oh,
it. I had
shit.
nothing to say. I'm like, if I meet Mike Patton, I'm gonna ask him this and ask him this, and then
Yeah.
I met him and I go, hi.
So now I would still be that way right now if I met Mike Patton or Dave Lombardo, because I
Yeah.
would be like, what the fuck, Those dudes, I want them to be my friend. I know that's not going to happen, but I just
But they're larger than life. Yeah.
Okay, so Party Man and I have had this conversation like 17 times, just about how stupid like we are as people that
Yeah.
we put ourselves in that position. But I did it. I met Mike Ness like 2 years ago. He
Oh,
was playing
shit.
with Flogging Molly, and my
Oh, wow.
buddy works for Flogging, and so I go back there, and he's got this handler, and I'm like, well, can I just say hi to Mike? And I was like, I'm a 40 plus year old man,
yeah.
and I've just been reduced to like a
Yeah.
bumbling idiot.
Yep.
I'm like, hi, like, thank you so much. You're so great. I gotta go.
So if you could like hang out and like have a beer or whatever you like to drink with somebody, it doesn't have to be a musician, but that you admire, who would you like to hang out with? Just for let's say they give you a half hour and they're gonna just hang out and sit at the bar and have a beverage. So Party Man, who would you like to hang out with?
That's a tough one, Chuck.
I know.
I've talked like Erik said, we've talked 17 times about this. It's like I could meet my complete idol, and what am I going to say to this person that they haven't heard 1,000 times before? They're going to just say, "Who is this moron?" I have things to do. Leave me alone.
I know. But let's say you get past that awkwardness of like you first meet and you're like, all right, and then he's like, so dude, you're like, what are you listening to today? Like, who would you like to like have that conversation where you're just kind of just hanging
I
out
would
and talk
love
about
to
music?
talk with Neil Fallon from Clutch,
Oh,
just
yeah.
because they've been doing it so long. They're just on the road all the time. There has to be so much knowledge and so many crazy stories
Yeah.
that he has. So
I'm with you there. And I think that's another dude I'd be tongue tied with too.
Oh, so we Matt and I saw them at the Orbit Room a few years ago, and he's walking from the Orbit Room to the laundry machine, and he's just got his little sack of laundry. And I was like, well, should we go say hello? And we are like, no, we're just gonna let the dude be the dude.
Do his laundry.
I was like, I don't want to be that guy. I want to be that guy, but I don't want to be that guy.
Right. Oh man, that's funny. So, Erik, how about you? Who would you like to sit down and?
It'd probably be Rollins.
Nice.
Yeah, I think I would. Because like Party Man said, and Neil's been doing it forever, but Rollins has just, he's done it all, and he was my superhero growing up. So,
did you read his book? Get in the Van?
I've read all of them.
I love that book.
It's so good.
So I'll be honest. I did not know who Black Flag was at first. Like I heard Rollins and I was like, oh, Henry Rollins, who's this guy? And then I really liked Henry Rollins, and I'm like, oh, this dude was the lead singer in Black Flag. And then I found his book, Get in the Van. I'm like, guy lived in a doghouse. Like, what the?
Yep.
Oh my God, crazy. Matt Fry.
Well, I'm with Erik. Rollins. I would love to sit down with that guy. Like I said, the two people I would like to sit and have a beer with. Neither one of them drink. Rollins and Alice Cooper.
Oh yeah.
Either one of those guys, but Rollins, is one of the any people who've lived. I want to, who, you've read their books and I want to hear the stories.
Yeah.
These are, it used to be, my trifecta were, Rollins, Alice Cooper, and Lemmy. And then, but obviously Lemmy's gone.
Right.
So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. That's a good lineup. Alan, how about you?
All right, was on mute. I'm going to go non-music, and I'm going to go with Elon Musk. Just
nice.
Interesting dude.
Yeah.
How do you accomplish what you accomplish? He's got all these companies, and like he doesn't fail at things. How do you do that? How do you not fail?
Yeah. Exactly. And I think that dude would have so many interesting questions or so many interesting stories to tell about where he came from, plus where he wants to go. Because I think that's a dude that's like looking well ahead of most folks,
Right.
And so that would be super cool. Awesome.
What's your answer, Chuck?
Oh man. Well, like you guys, I've got lots of embarrassing stories about meeting people I really enjoy. Another one is, I was shooting a show at the Crowfoot in Pontiac. It was Carcass, and I'm a huge Carcass fan. And all the dudes were basically there at this bar. I stopped in to get a beer, and they're having dinner there. And I look over, and I'm kind of doing the side glance. I go, "That's Jeff Walker," Oh shit, that's Bill Steer. I'm like, and so I kept looking over him. I'm sure they were like, "Why is that fucking idiot looking over here?" Like. I thought maybe I should just go say hi, and I didn't. I walked out. Like you should have just said something. But as far as people I'd really like to hang out, so there's a laundry list, but Bill Murray, I'd really like to have a beer with Bill Murray, and Foo Fighters, Dave Grohl, yeah. Those two dudes. And honestly, if we could get all together, like three of us, have a little conversation. I mean, I wouldn't get a word in edgewise because I think those two dudes would just talk.
Yeah.
Or at least Dave would, and me and Bill would listen. But I think that would be fun, just to hang out with those guys.
Have you read his book?
Dave's, yeah.
I
cool.
just finished it. I love it. Loved it.
Yeah, it was very, very good. I was inspired by it. Yeah. So, well, guys, I really appreciate you being on Fans with Bands. So awesome. Such a great talk. Fantastic. I have just one last question. Matt knows what it is. Actually,
Yeah.
most of you guys do because you were on the other show, but I'm going to ask it anyway. It's controversial. Pineapple or no pineapple on pizza? Erik.
No pineapple.
Alan.
No.
No. Matt.
Absolutely not.
Oh, and Matt Pry.
1,000 times no. Absolutely no. We're unanimous here. That's awesome.
this
All
is-
four of us.
This is a first because this has
Yeah.
never happened. There's always one fucker out there that's putting a pineapple on there. And you're like, what the fuck is the deal?
One disgusting human out
Yeah.
there that
Yeah, the last one, somebody like they said pineapple. I said, oh, so what do you like to accessorize with it? And somebody else chimed in, more pineapple. Like, fuck off.
oh my god.
Yeah,
That's just wrong.
yeah, it is just wrong. Well,
It's
guys,
horrible.
thank you again so much. Really
No.
appreciate
Thanks, Chuck.
Thank you, Chuck. This was awesome. We had a great time.
it. Awesome.
We really appreciate it. You taking the time out of your evening to chat with us. It's been pretty awesome. So
Oh,
thank
yeah,
you.
super fun, super fun. Thanks again, guys.
Awesome. Thanks,
All right.
Chuck.
Thanks.
Thanks, Chuck.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Yes, bye.
Thanks to Erik, Matt, Alan, and Matt for joining me on this episode of Fans with Bands. It was great to get the origin story behind Budahas. Their album, called Explorer, is laden with powerful grooves in the vein of Clutch and Kyuss. Definitely worth a purchase over at their Bandcamp page. See the show notes for all the details and links. These are tough times for everyone in the creative industries such as music. Your support of live streaming, purchasing music, and merchandise is critical. If you can help out your local artists, please do. If you are in the Michigan area, consider following the Playing in the Detroit Area Tonight Facebook page. It is a place for fans and bands to support each other and share our combined love of music. Thank you all so much for listening. Be sure to hit subscribe on your favorite podcast service to get each and every episode of Fans with Bands. Spread the word by rating the show and leaving a comment. We want to hear what you think. You can keep in touch by following us on social media. This is a Life in Michigan production. Until next time, be well and kick out the jams.